Vandy's latest two portal additions add a dynamic element to the offense as well as quality depth.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Thank you for making Locked On Vandy your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 with any winning $5 bet. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Today's episode, we're going to find out just how Vandy can gain respect in the SEC. We're going to get to that. But with the latest two additions, Tim Beck and the offense gained two dynamic pieces that will add quality depth and allow the offense to produce. Now, the word dynamic is really the word that stands out in this whole evaluation of the latest two portal additions, because it doesn't just talk about their talent as being dynamic or their impact for them being dynamic, but it also discusses how the offense can be dynamic in their play calling with Tim Beck as well. And that's where the dynamic kind of comes into play. Eli Stowers at tight end and Makhilyn Young at running back will add a spark to this offense, and again will allow Tim Beck to have a bunch of different a bunch of variations to his play calls and a bunch of different ways he can attack defenses. So that's exciting. That's very, very exciting. I think these are two, I think Clark Lee's continuing to kill it in the portal. Tim Beck, Jerry Kill also. They're turning into the Vandy State Aggie doors. And this is awesome because I think they handed Auburn their worst loss last year. So anytime you can do that, anytime you can add those elements to it, that's also very, very exciting. So how do they fit into the scheme? Where do they fit into the puzzle? Like, how do they flow into the overall identity of the offense, all of that stuff? Well, first we need to get to know these two players and what they bring to the table before we know how they fit, because you have to kind of break down the different sides of the puzzle piece before you put the puzzle into the puzzle, or before you put the piece into the puzzle. So Eli Stowers comes in at tight end. Okay. And he experienced a position change during his time at New Mexico State, even as early as last season. He was playing some relief quarterback roles. Him and Diego Pavia split some time at quarterback. I think Diego Pavia got like 90% of the snaps and Stowers got 10% of the snaps at quarterback, but Stowers did throw some balls. He was recruited as a quarterback coming out of high school and didn't quite pan out at the position, needed a position change so that he could play, but still got some snaps early in the season. They made that determination later on, and he has flourished in the tight end role because he's kind of a taller, bigger guy. He's kind of like just a little bit too small to be an inline tight end, and he's just a little bit too big to be an outside, like, dynamic threat at wide receiver, like an X receiver would be, like Jeremiah Dillon would be. Like, he's not quite that explosive, quite that springy, and quite that. So he fits kind of into that hybrid tight end role, kind of what you're starting to see with how they're playing with guys like Kyle Pitts, Brock Bowers, Darren Waller. Like if I'm giving NFL comps to Styles, I'm not saying he's Brock Bowers by any stretch. I'm not saying he's Kyle Pitts, but it's the style of play from that tight end position. It's kind of like a bigger inside slot receiver that will be called upon to do some blocking responsibilities, but will mostly kind of take care of things in the RPO game. He's going to be somebody that can block on the outside as well. But he's a big, long target that can attack the middle of the field, and in the red zone, he's somebody that can be kind of pesky, especially if Vandy wants to get into like 10 personnel type stuff or like 11 personnel spread stuff where they want a bigger body kind of out there, like if they want to go like 11 personnel, but they don't want to have like a big clunky guy out there in a wide bunch, lining up as a wide receiver. They could throw Stowers in there and get kind of a lot of the similar things and get a good blocker on the edge, but get somebody who's athletic enough to play out there and be good and not just be kind of somebody who just eating up space. So somebody who's actually a threat to get the ball. So that's what he brings to the table. And plus he brings the intelligence of a quarterback to the tight end position, which will help him in his route running. And then you have Makhilyn Young who comes in. He is very, very shifty, average 7 yards a carry. He had limited carries. Star Thomas kind of led the way, which is who I thought Vandy was going to get to begin with. But they get Makhilyn Young, who has 3 years of eligibility. But I mean, this guy's like a coiled up spring almost. I mean, this guy's good, and you watch him on film and some of his limited goes or some of his limited carries. He's somebody that he's got really good cutback ability. He's got good vision. He's quicker than he is fast, but he can chew up some yardage as well. So he's somebody that you really kind of should get excited for because he's a guy that can really make a difference. And so you got to be excited about that. You've got to be thrilled that, I think he fits in early on as like a third down back type of thing, or like a third back in, or something of that regard. Like it's going to be somebody that does a lot of different things. He's going to be somebody that just that. And somebody that adds a little bit of dynamicism or dynamic element to this offense and what they can do, especially when they get down in the red zone, especially in some of these read schemes or like some of these zone schemes where it requires them to read B gap to B gap. Somebody that can quickly get north and south and chew up some yardage. And so, but the key element to this is that Young comes into a running back room that adds a lot of quality depth. Like you've got two kind of just all around good backs with Cedric Alexander and AJ Newberry. You bring in Makhilyn Young, who's kind of like a little bit smaller, shiftier guy. And then you have also Micah Bell, who will probably come in and get some carries, or he'll be like the running back and the empty sets, things like that. Makhilyn Young can also play that Micah Bell role. So they got two guys of that nature. Like he can, like if you want to go like 20 personnel and like split them out and motion them in and get creative on some things you can do in the option game or in the running back screen game or the running back pass game. He's going to be somebody that's going to be electric in that area. Like watching New Mexico State, they run a lot of the back out of the backfield on like running back seam routes. Like those are the kind of things that they can do to attack the field. And Makhilyn Young can do all of that. So when I say dynamic pieces, I mean they have unique talents, but they also allow for the scheme to kind of broaden it, like to kind of grow a little bit. They add the ability for Tim Beck to be able to create matchup problems on the perimeter, because you get a tight end, you may get a linebacker come down to cover him. You may get like a box safety that's not great in coverage if they're going man schemes, like to get matched up on somebody like Eli Stowers, and he'll roast him. And then you have like inside linebackers trying to cover Makhilyn Young out of the backfield in some situations, and it's going to be a nightmare for them, especially like you get like plus 30 in and you run a little running back seam. Like those are easy touchdowns. Like you run like especially off play action off the jet sweep. Like you have Micah Bell coming across on the jet sweep. You fake it there, do a little jab fake. Like Diego Pavia is going to run it. And then he steps back, and the back that's usually lead blocking He kind of steps around and steps in front of that linebacker, gets up the seam, boom, big play, possibly touchdown right there. That's just one way that these backs can really kind of contribute to, or these guys can really kind of contribute to the scheme. And so there's a lot of different things you can do, and it's exciting. So the question, the big question is, okay, you've got this unique set of skills. You've got some dynamic play calls. Now, how is that going to fit with your overall identity? Like, how does that fit into what you do as an offense by adding these two pieces to what you've already got? Now, how does that change? Does that change things? Does it not change things? We'll discuss that next. All right, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. It is winner take all time in the NBA and NHL, and FanDuel is giving you a shot to bring home a big win of your own. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. I don't know if you heard me right. That's $150 to bet on spreads, money lines, player props, parlays, all of that. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make every playoff shot count. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. You guys watching ESPN, Fox Sports, you guys tired of all that screaming? Like, you have to constantly turn down the TV. That's not good. So what you need to do is make the switch to Locked On Sports today. It's a free 24/7 sports channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So we talked about what kind of players they're getting in Eli Stowers and Makhilyn Young, what they bring to the table, what their unique skill set specifically kind of calls for, but like, how do they really fit into the scheme? How do they really kind of fit into the overall identity of this offense, which is, like I said, a big giant puzzle piece? Like, where do their pieces fit? Okay. And what does it do to the overall philosophy of what they're trying to do? Well, I'll start with that. The overall philosophy, I don't think changes a whole bunch. I think it adds wrinkles to what you're doing in the run game. I think it adds an element of first level RPOs with the tight end. And I think it gives you something there. But like in the overall scheme of things, I don't think they're going to throw the ball any more than they had planned to, because they got Stowers and Makhilyn Young. I don't think they're all of a sudden going to become a up-tempo air raid team, because now they've got a couple good receivers from the portal and a good Swiss Army knife, a good utility guy, and a good running back, and a really good athletic tight end to go with your big beast of a target and Cole Spence. I don't think much is going to change with the overall philosophy. I still think you're going to feature the quarterback run. I still think you're going to feature the option game, whether it be double option or triple option. And when I say triple option, I mean new age triple option, which is RPO. I don't think any of that's going to change overall. I think some things that will change will be very minor. Like you'll see Stowers probably a little bit more involved in catching screens in the RPO games. I think you'll see Cole Spence on some stick routes, or like you'll see Stowers, you might see them take a few more seam shots with Stowers because he's a little bit more of an athletic piece there. But overall, I don't see any major changes. What I do see is, you have with the latest 4 additions, right, on offense. Okay, you get a really good right tackle, first of all. I think you're going to be able to run the ball a lot better. He played left tackle at Liberty. I don't think he plays left tackle at Vandy. I think he plays right. He's 6'4". He's not quite long enough to play on the left side in this league, but that doesn't mean he's not good. It just 6'4" is tough to play left tackle in this league. But you add dynamic piece in Darian Wiley, which he is a freaking animal. He's somebody that will catch a slant, break 3 tackles and go score and then let you know about it. Like, he's the kind of attitude that we need. Like, the intangibles that he brings are the attitude. And it's somebody that, very, very fiery, very good, very, he's the swag that they need. Okay. But he can do a lot of different things. You add Micah Bell, who can do a lot of different things. He can run you jet sweeps. He can run you slants, posts, corner routes. Like, he can motion in the backfield, be a running back. He can play as an inside guy on empty formations. He can block a little bit. He can kind of do a lot of different things, and also in the return game. Makhilyn Young is somebody that comes in as kind of like a third running back that is very quick and shifty and kind of physical and can do a lot of things. So I think it opens up a lot of different possibilities in the run game, because now you have 3 guys that are really good. I think it, with him being such a good zone runner, I think inside zone becomes more of a factor now, or even the wide zone becomes more of a factor because of his ability to cut back. So maybe that's a minor tweak in the identity. Maybe you go more zone centric than gap centric, possibly. With the addition of that, maybe maybe it opens up more zone RPOs with Diego Pavia, giving him a chance to either double read it or triple read it. So just different things that open up with these guys. Stowers gives you a chance to get in some spread sets and spread guys out wide and still have a really good type, still have 11 personnel type people out there to be able to get what you need to get, but more athletically. From 11 personnel, it gives you the most athletic look at 11 personnel. It gives you a chance, if you want to go 12 personnel, like, it gives you a chance to add an extra tight end in the body and have an athletic guy that can do things on the perimeter in the pass game and possibly even in the run game. So, or even in the screen game. It gives you, I think, having Micah Bell, I think, gives you some opportunities for slow screens, tunnel screens, motion orbit type screens, getting creative with those type of things as well, I think allows you some things. And Darian Wiley as well allows you some nice stuff on some tunnel screens or jailbreak screens, whatever you decide to call them. So with the overall philosophy, I just think there's going to be some minor things that take advantage of what these guys do well, which is how I think it's going to go. I think you're still going to have Diego Pavia running quarterback power, which is exciting. He ate up a lot of yards at New Mexico State doing that. You're still going to have jet reads. You're still going to have RPOs where, you're throwing to an outside now screen. You're still going to have Jeremiah Dillon on a third level glance, which I saw some plays of that from New Mexico State. Diego Pavia hit him in absolute right on the money. So you're going to see probably a heavy dose of that. And then I don't know that you're going to get a whole lot of just straight base runs. And they have some guys that they could go like 23 personnel even and be good. So you're going to, like, just being dynamic. When I say dynamic, again, I reiterate the fact that when I say dynamic, that's just not another synonym for, good athletes. I think being dynamic is being able to make a lot of different adjustments, have a lot of different wrinkles on what you do, have a lot of variations on formations and personnel groups and what you can do within those personnel groups. That also is something that is more of a tweak that adds an element of being dynamic to, allows your offense to be dynamic in that way. And if you have guys that are, obviously they're pulling guys from this system that know the system. So that helps too. Like when half your starters are from the same system and they can kind of pick it up pretty easily. The motions allow you a little bit of flexibility. Being able to go from 10 personnel to 12 personnel and not really lose a whole lot of athleticism is a key element here. Just those are factors that I think will should excite Vandy fans, because like you're gonna see just how spread out this kind of stuff is, and just how just how good that they can be with those different personnel groupings, and the overall identity is still going to be physical, still going to be run first, and they're still going to try and slow the game down, put points on the board, and allow their defense to go to work, because their defense is finally going to have an identity. And we'll talk more about the defense on later episodes, but I think the defense is going to actually be able to have a dominant mentality and be able to do some things too, because the offense is going to play complementary football, and the offense is going to put them in good situations. Punting is not always a bad thing. I think people think it is, but it's not. And so it's exciting. You're building quality depth, which I don't think Vandy has had in quite some time. You're building not really any star power, but you're a star as a unit, because if you can fit all the pieces of the puzzle together, that adds up, quick screen for 3 yards, a quarterback draw, and then a stick throw. That gives you a first down. And then you do it again, gives you another first down. And then you hit a big play that puts you in scoring range. And then, you just move the ball down the field, and you can do it in a bunch of different ways. And it allows you to kind of not dominate, but get some confidence. And once you get some confidence, man, it's all, next thing you know, you're beating Kentucky, you're beating South Carolina, you're beating Auburn, and you're in a bowl game, which no one thought possible. FanDuel has you at 2.5 wins. Smash you over on that, by the way. Watch that episode, right? It's out there, man. It's out there for the taking, and Vandy has a chance to be very, very pesky, very dynamic. Versatility, dynamic, those are 2 words that I think would, across the board, talk about not only Vandy's offense, but the entire team. Versatile, dynamic. And they have pieces that allow that. So how do they get respect, though? What does that look like within this conference? We'll talk about that next. All right, welcome back. Third and final segment as we wrap up the show here on a Thursday edition of the Locked On Vandy podcast. Thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. Shout out to the everydayers. Make sure you make Locked On SEC your next listen. Chris Gordy does a phenomenal job. So talking about the pieces that were added, I think it adds a dynamic element to this offense. I think it gives you some more wrinkles, some more things you can do off of what your base stuff is going to be. It allows you flexibility in your personnel groupings and formations and how you present to the defense. And, I think you use that to your advantage. Now, how does Vandy get respect? Okay. That's a very, very solid question here, because I think already they've earned a level of respect just by overhauling, right? I think when you look at what Vandy has done, I think everybody in the league would be foolish, unless you're a Tennessee fan, which you're never going to look at it objectively. But I think if people step back and really just kind of looked at what Vandy's doing, you would say, okay, you got my attention, okay? Because right on the heels of a 2-10 season, okay, it was an abysmal season last year. I don't know how much I can say that. It was absolutely atrocious. Just speaking facts, okay? You get walloped by UNLV. Not good. So Clark Lee decides, let go both of his coordinators. He decides, I'm going to take over the defense. I'm going to hire a guy that I feel like I can trust to take over the offense, and I'm going to leave him alone. And then I'm going to hire a head coach consultant that was a head coach of a team that had their most successful season in program history at New Mexico State. I'm going to hire him, and then now what it set off a string of getting transfer commits or transfer portal commits and coaches from that very same tree. And so now you're trying to recreate that, which brought up the name Vandy State Aggie Doors. So how do they earn respect? Well, they're starting to. They overhauled strength and conditioning. Go look at Dante Carter's Twitter post today. He went and visited his old high school. You can tell that dude's been eating. You can tell that dude's been lifting. Because you look at a picture of him when he showed up and look at a picture of him now, he's probably added about 10 to 15 pounds of just solid muscle. That dude looks yoked. Okay. You look at him, you're like, yeah, that weight training program is working. Okay. You look at that. So you got respect there. Now you got a respectable staff. You got some respectable things in place. Like I think Vandy fans can see that, all right, they're trying to build the stadium now. Okay. We're going to try to participate in this NIL thing. Very aggressive in the portal. I think the offseason has really, really done a number on what people's views of what Vandy actually is. Now, are they talented enough to pull off a bowl win season? Yes and no. Yes, because I think it's, scheme wise, they're going to be super locked in and focused on fitting it. But talent wise, comparatively, I don't know if you just match it up talent versus talent on paper, but we all know football goes beyond that. So that's kind of where the wild card is. It's kind of where the variables are. But so you look at their stadium renovations. Okay, check. They're getting respect there. All right. So they've already earned a good bit of respect by participating in the portal, getting additions that work for them, renovating the stadium, overhauling strength and conditioning, overhauling recruiting and college scouting. So you got guys scouting the portal, you got guys scouting high schools, and your recruiting efforts have increased. There's another level of respect. And the fact that I think Clark Lee is a little bit more bought in. Not that he wasn't before, but it just seems like he is. It just seems like he's more awake. I thought especially in his first year, but last year too, like it looked like he wanted to be anywhere but there. He had that look on his face like, I'm here, but I'm not really here, and I don't really want to be here. And that's kind of look he had on his face. So that I think has some people noticing, like, oh, okay, well, Clark Lee he's taking over the defense now, so he's really going to be into it. So we better play them tough, okay? So all of those factors, the fact that he pulled a safety from LSU, pulled a safety from TCU, pulled a really good cornerback class out of the transfer portal, signed some really, really key guys out of high school. Just a lot of those factors right there, I think, have immediately gained Vanderbilt a lot more respect than they had back in November when their final record said 2-10 and they were pathetic, and they were about to be in a bench clearing brawl at Tennessee. Like Vanderbilt was downright pathetic, as they've been for a lot of years. But they were downright. That might have been the most pathetic Vanderbilt team I've ever seen. They were, and that's saying something, because they were, oh my God, they were pathetic. But a lot of that's changed now, and people can see it. And so how do they continue to gain respect? Well, I think very worst case scenario, I think you have to have a good showing against Virginia Tech, win or lose. I think you can gain a lot of respect there, because that game's going to be, I believe it's going to be nationally televised. I don't know if it's going to run in the noon slot and get buried by the Georgia Clemson game, but like you go out and win that game, you mess around and win that game, you want to talk about you got the respect now. You got everybody's attention now. You beat Virginia Tech. You start the season 3-0 going into Missouri. It's a whole new ball game. It's a whole new mindset there. Who knows? Like if Vanderbilt's 3-0, man, like that's the thing. Like, don't wake up Vandy. Don't let them think that they're good, that they can be good at sports too. Because if Vanderbilt ever thinks that, if Vanderbilt ever gets to the point where they're like, hey, I know we can be good at sports, or we're going to try to be good at sports, they could be really good with NIL. Like I don't think people realize just how untapped the NIL market is in Nashville, Tennessee, because it's not being used. So I think they can gain a lot of respect right there. They gain a lot of respect by continuing to crush it in the portal. They gain a lot of respect by beating Virginia Tech. They gain a lot of respect by going up to Missouri and keeping that one tight. Same with Alabama. Don't get shellacked by Alabama and Missouri. Okay. Play them tough. Okay. You're Vandy. You're allowed to have a couple moral victories this year. All right. That's another way. Against the really good teams, against the Texases of the world, the LSUs, the Tennessees, the Bamas, the Missouris, have a good showing because you never know what could happen. Like you get LSU late. You never know what could happen. You play them tough. It's down in Baton Rouge, unfortunately, but you play them tough, and the next thing you know, like you could be on the correct side. You could be on the right side of the scoreboard. You don't know. But like by that time, we'll know just kind of where Clark Lee is. If his seat is red hot, or if we're talking about, hey, Vandy's going bowling this year, which is a massive accomplishment. So that's how they gain respect. Right out of the gates. They've already gained some, but right out of the gates against Virginia Tech, that is their first test. Win that one, you're well on your way to a massive, massive season. Okay, you lose that one, everything's still intact, but it's just a little bit harder, and you gain respect, which will set you up for next year. You get shellacked in that game, I think it all flies out the window. If you get shellacked against Virginia Tech, I think the season falls apart, unfortunately. But that's the truth. Like you have all that confidence and you get just completely shelled in the first game. I think it takes a lot of wind out of your sails and it's tough to get back. So I think you have to have at least a good showing. Losing is not as big of a deal as not getting freaking tallywhacked. So anyway, but that's going to do it for us here on the Locked On Vandy podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network. Make sure you are dynamic in your lives, in your everyday life, and make sure you're dynamic in the shows that you listen to. And the fact that you subscribe to this, so smash that subscribe button and follow us on social media. I Locked On Vandy at Coach Burn 36. Follow the show. So with that, we hope you have a great rest of your day. We'll see you back here tomorrow to wrap up the week, talking Vandy boys and talking more Vandy football. And we'll catch you back here tomorrow. Peace out. Anchor down.